Dr. Bob Popolak, our doctor. Hey, Dr. Bob. And James Virgilio. How do you say it, James?
Virgilio.
I should be able to do this. Virgilio.
That's a hard one, no worries.
James Perfect. Virgilio. So Geraldo. Okay, let's take some questions. William in Cleveland, what's your question? Hi, buddy. You're up. William, you listening?
Okay, there we go.
Okay, what's on your mind?
I just had two things. Do you believe from Reagan to Obama, would they have shut this country down in January when they first heard about this disease? And the second question is, China made most of if not all of our respiratory machines. Do we have that technology to emergency make them right now for our medical field?
James Virgilio, you want to try that? Do we have
Sure.
the capacity to do what China's doing, and are we too dependent on China?
Yeah, and I think the first part of your question is no, we wouldn't have done this under Reagan, but that has a lot to do with the world and technology and communication and where we are now. As far as making ventilators, yeah, I absolutely think the free market can make ventilators. In fact, right now, the hospital in my area has already found out how to make, cheap emergency ventilators that they can use at Home Depot. And so I think that's true across the country. We haven't done that yet simply because we haven't needed to do that yet. But, yes, I do think that's possible. That's
possible. Okay, hang in on the question. This one is for Dr. Bob. You have a situation where the president says Easter Sunday is going to be the resurrection for the world. What are you thinking?
I think it's a little optimistic. It would be wonderful. I think that the way the rate is going, especially in New York in particular, I think that it's going to take much longer than that. I think we're talking more on a frame of at least a 3 or 4 week to get a good idea of where people talk about this peak or how high the number of cases is going to go. I think that's going to be more reasonable in terms of the assessment of how long it's going to take. I think maybe there could be a turn down or a thought that perhaps the slowing down of the increase in the new cases, but I don't think we're going to be out of the woods by then. I just think it's too optimistic.
Way too optimistic. I love him, and I hope it happens. Jay in Akron, what's your question, Jay?
Yes, thanks for taking my call. First of all, Joe Biden said that Donald Trump was involved with the Russians. He said that Donald Trump was involved in Ukraine. Joe Biden said Donald Trump should be impeached. And now we're supposed to believe what Joe Biden says now. All these people in the media who were anti-Trump before this virus hit, pay attention to what they say about the virus and how soon it's going to happen. Because I don't believe half of what they say.
You think politics infuses their opinion?
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, if you saw these people like Morning Joe, talk about this virus and how Trump is not doing a great job, well, where was he before the virus? What did he say about Donald Trump being involved with Russia, being involved in Ukraine, being involved in impeachment? I mean, these are all clowns on TV trying to scare us about this virus.
I totally get that. Erica and I fight about that all the time. I think that if you went down that Russia rabbit hole with the Ukraine and the impeachment of the president, your credibility, in my opinion, has been severely damaged. In what?
Completely disagree with both of you. If you took the time to read the Mueller report, you're basing everything you're saying off of a 4-page letter from William Barr.
Okay. A sensitive topic, obviously, and why look back anyway? That's true. I stand corrected. Let's look forward. James Virgilio, financial analyst. We're up 560. What are you thinking about this bounce based on the Senate apparently agreeing with the White House that they've got a relief package?
Well, it's certainly not going to be a sustained bounce, at least not in the short term. In fact,
not a sustained bounce.
Not a sustained bounce, not yet. I think that the harsh reality is stimulus or printing money is never a cure for any economic woes. It might do some short-term confidence building, but in the long run, it's going to not fix any problems. More importantly, Geraldo, and I know from reading some of your tweets, you feel this way too, the economic damage that's being done by the shutdown is significant. And as the Q1 numbers come out, as we move into Q2, this is going to take some time to sort through. We're not just immediately going to be able to get back to normal, given what we've done with these shutdowns.
What will people do with the $1,200 check, or I guess with the With the husband, it'll be 24. With the kids, say a family gets a $3,000 cash infusion. That James is not an inconsiderable amount of money. I mean, that's a nice, since people have what, $500 on average on hand for combating emergencies. To have $3,000, that's not bad. People will spend it. Will it have a positive impact on the economy?
It's not bad, but I don't think so because, Geraldo, where does the money come from, right? We just printed it. So if you put more money in the supply, doesn't that just eventually increase the prices? And doesn't that, therefore, then just keep things more or less the same?
So you think it's going to beat inflation?
It will eventually. Now, we haven't seen that yet, but a lot of it has to do with the banks not lending. But, yes, at some point in time, you can't keep printing money and not have inflation happen. It's just not a possibility. I think in the near term, families are able to meet some demands. But in the long run, are businesses going to retain employees they don't need? Can the government make them do that? I think those are the questions that are going to be difficult to answer as we move forward.
All right, James, stand by. Dr. Bob, this Arizona man who ingested the chloroquine in fish tank cleaner dying, obviously it's like drinking rubbing alcohol. He basically killed himself. But you had that critically ill patient on chloroquine. I just wonder, how is he faring? And I think you had a second patient. You want to tell us about the use of this drug and whether or not you think it's hopeful?
Yes, I think studies have come out now that, and my observations of the patients, it's probably our best thought about the most optimistic view of what treatment would be. The gentleman that I spoke of the other day, he's actually doing slightly better, and of course he's not out of the woods, he's still on the respirator, but signs would suggest that he's improving, and he's actually having a little bit more favorable outcome, but still on the respirator. But his lungs are actually looking like they're starting to recover. Now the question being, is this just a natural course of events because of this guy recovering from the virus, or whether or not the medicines are working? And that's why these trials that are just starting are so important, because we don't want to go around talking about anecdotal reports. We don't want to go around talking about the 5 or 10 or 15 people that we hear may have gotten better with the medicine. Desperation is here, and that's not the way science really works. And the idea of finding out whether or not a medicine is truly effective, you need to really look at the patients. It takes time, unfortunately. We don't have that time, and that's why there's so much pressure and so much stress about it. But we really need to find out with the patients over a longer term, maybe even just a couple of months, to see whether or not what we're doing now is really effective, or whether or not we're seeing a natural course of the disease itself.
Well said. What about plasma? We've heard all about that, and that's been around since I was a kid. Before that, even from the Middle Ages almost, where the blood of a person who's had it and is healthy is used to immunize people against it.
Absolutely. I think it's been applied, like you appropriately said, for with other illnesses where it actually tries to stave it off. I think we first have to look at this antibody test that we're now that they're formulating and trying to get a hold of that, because then we can detect what people that actually got the virus already and are over it now, where in fact they will have the antibodies. Two things will be: number one, they could probably go back into the workforce and be able to work and go back into the population because they're immune, at least right now, as we understand. And number two is we can utilize their antibodies. So we have to first find out who these people are and then apply that kind of technology to try to help other people as they get sick.